Hey, everybody, and welcome to And Action Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Tommy DiNucci, as always, here with my faithful co host, Mikey Messier. It's good to have Mike back. We missed him last week. This week is episode 57, and we're talking all about animals, guys. And I don't mean unruly actors, I'm talking about real, live, breathing, furry animals, cats, dogs, horses, mice, exotic birds. I've had a chance to work with a lot of these fun little creatures. Well, some of them are really big creatures. And we're going to be talking all about it because working with animals requires a very special level of patience. But before we get into that, Mike, we missed you last week, but we had a great episode talking all about my new movie, The Collective. If you haven't seen Collective yet, you can check it out right now wherever movies are watched. Most people check it out on iTunes, Amazon Prime, YouTube. It's all over the place. Mike, how have you been? We missed you last week. What's new?
Well, things are good, Tommy. Our friend Kim Kaling was able to watch The Collective through, I believe, Apple TV. I was able to watch it through Hoopla, which is kind of an interesting new app in the world of apps and excitement. And I enjoyed the movie, and I enjoyed the response from the show last week. So if people are looking to see your new movie, The Collective, one way to do it is through Hoopla, which is basically an app you can get if you have a library card anywhere in the United States. Hoopla is a free app, and you can get some really basically free loans of entertainment. So I downloaded the app about 3 weeks ago, and then I used it again to watch The Collective. So that's good, and things are good, man. Things are very hot here in Florida, and I think we have a great show today.
Hoopla, that's a fun app. It's nice to see that the people of the library world, it seems like libraries are this kind of throwback idea. The idea of going to a library seems like something very, very 80s, very 90s kind of concept. Oh, go to the library. In fact, it's kind of funny. I remember being a kid and actually renting movies from the library. So it's nice to see that this is sort of like the new age version of being able to rent a movie at the library. But now, of course, thanks to technology, you can stream that shit right to your phone, bounce it over to your TV. It's pretty wild, the world that we're living in, and I'm happy to hear that there's a kind of a unique way that library folks can use that card for some good wherever they are in the country, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was here in Florida, and I was able to watch the entire movie ad-free right through the Hoopla app, and pretty exciting. And I really enjoyed, not to spoil anything, but I really enjoyed the Mercedes Moné Tyrese Gibson fight scene. I thought that was very well executed, and it reminded me of I think the bar for fight scenes as far as fisticuffs is Roddy Piper in They Live, when he has that 15-minute fight scene. But this one was really right up there, buddy. So you should be proud of your direction on that. And we're talking about our topic today of directing animals. What a specific thing to talk about. And I think a lot of young directors out there, if they haven't worked with animals yet, you never know what's going to happen in your career, because a lot of films, especially films with family comedies and stuff like that, a lot of them have an animal character in them. So I think this will be pretty interesting.
Yeah, they say there's the famous, I believe it's a W.C. Fields quote that says, "Never work with children or animals." We've probably all heard that one before, but it's not true, damn it, because if you've got the right level of patience, working with children and animals can be terrific. But this week we're specifically just talking about our furry friends, the animals. Like you said, Mike, when I first started making movies, I really can't say that I ever even considered, like, what's it like to direct an animal. It's almost one of those things that you figure, like you said, there might be an animal in a movie that I'm working on, but you never really think about, like, oh wait, we actually have to get our shots and rely on, our central character, so to speak, is a creature that doesn't speak English, doesn't really talk, doesn't really know why they're there. They're kind of just, they get pulled out of their natural habitat and put on their mark and are expected to perform. But I've had a lot of luck working on movies with really talented animal trainers. And then I've had some movies where I've had to kind of do it myself. And it's, maybe a lower budget film, or maybe a movie that, just it's a small shot. So we didn't have a trainer per se. So we're going to get into all that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for this. My first time ever working with an animal was on my second movie. It was called Army of the Damned. And it was such limited animal action. It was really just like a cute, tiny little Pomeranian dog. It was actually our costume designer's dog. It
Right.
was Michael Berryman's character, who, if you don't know who Michael Berryman is, he's a bit of a horror movie icon, a really unique guy. And he's this kind of like, he's known for being scary in a lot of movies. So in this movie, we thought it would be funny if this scary, kind of tough character had this really sweet, cute little dog. So that was my first taste of working with a dog. And, really, it was barely directing anyone in terms of directing animals, because I was lucky. This was a simple, isolated shot. The dog just kind of had to sit on Michael's lap and stay nice and calm. So that was one thing where I kind of had an easy taste the first time working with animals.
Is Michael Berryman the guy from The Hills Have Eyes? He has the very distinctive face with the eyes that are kind of halfway bulged out at all times. That's the guy.
Yeah, Michael Berryman is in The Hills Have Eyes, and he's also known for being in Army of the Damned. So if you haven't checked that one out, take a look at that movie, and you'll see this really cute dog. I want to say the dog's name was Remy, but yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I've eased into working with animals in my career. It's kind of leveled up a little bit more and more and more. The second time I ever worked with animals was in a Christmas movie, which is called, it was originally called The Santa Files. Now it's called Saving Christmas. And basically, that was another situation where we just had one shot with a dog. The dog really didn't have to do a whole lot of anything. The dog was kind of just positioned in one spot on the floor, and we just needed to get a cutaway. So if you
Right.
have to just get a cutaway of an animal, you probably don't need a trainer. You can probably save money on your budget. If the animal, and when I say a cutaway, I mean you're literally just like, it's a shot of the dog on the floor. They're not doing anything. Maybe we got it to like look up at us by like, literally being off camera and like snapping our fingers, and the dog looks up. Okay, great. We got it. So my first kind of adventures with animals were just simple dog cutaways. So it's always nice and easy when the animals don't really have to do a whole lot. But when the animal is actually one of the main characters in the movie, now it becomes a whole different ball of wax. So a movie that I made back in Los Angeles that I was really excited about. This was my first movie, flying out to LA, going out there doing my thing. It's a movie called Arlo the Burping Pig, which, if you didn't tell by the title, if the title didn't give it away,
What's it about, Tommy?
this is a movie for little children. And I
Yeah.
don't mean like kids like 9, 10. I mean like little kids. Like this movie, I believe they told me originally that the demographics, like, literally like ages 4 to 7, like 3 to
Right.
7. We're talking like really little kids, like early elementary age kind of kids. And the movie was all about a little girl who moves to a strange new town and doesn't have any new friends, but she's able to befriend this teacup pig, this adorable little swine named Arlo, who happens to burp. This dog has an incredible ability to really to burp like a Tyrannosaurus Rex kind of burp.
Sure.
And of course the dog, I mean, of course the pig talks. It's a talking pig. So I read the script and I remember saying to myself, like, oh my God, like how does this work? Because in the script, the pig had to do a lot of things. And when I mean do a lot of things, I mean it had to move around. It had to like go from point A to point B. You're going to hear that a lot on this show. One of the probably most basic tricks that you'll do with any animal on set, it's called an A to B. And that's as simple as it sounds. It's literally like, okay, the animal is trained to start on one position, you call action, and he or she will go to their second position. So this pig, so I was told, was trained to do things like A to B. It could walk around a little bit. It was allegedly very docile, and it allegedly had been used to being around people. And
Right.
again, we were told it was a teacup pig. Now, I'm not a animal expert by any means, but if you don't know what a teacup pig is, teacup pigs are animals that were basically, I want to say, kind of like genetically engineered to be pets for kids, mainly for kids. They're tiny pigs, they're miniature pigs. So I remember on day one of this movie, the trainer shows up in a van, a minivan, and it was basically like a mobile zoo. This lady had, her two front seats were just normal car front seats, but the back of the van was a goddamn zoo. It had, the wood chippy type flakes on the bed, that
Right.
an animal could kind of burrow in. It had a little water dish. It had a food dish, and there's this pig basically like in its trailer in the back of this van. So I remember I didn't get to meet the pig until we were shooting,
Right.
and the pig kind of just shows up, and we're shooting this scene where these two little girls are having a bit of a dispute, and this our main character girl is being bullied. She's about to get bullied by this, big bully kind of girl. And the pig burps so loud that it literally blows the bully off her feet and defends her. So the bully does not want to mess with this aggressive teacup pig.
Right.
So I'll never forget, like the first day we're shooting the scene in a park and the van pulls up and they pull this pig out, and the pig is just screaming like
Oh
bloody
God.
murder. Like it
Yeah.
sounded like somebody had like I could only compare it to it sounded like just like the pig was being strangled. It was yelling and screaming so much. I'm not about to do an impression of it, but it was just like the most high-pitched shrill scream ever, squawking and screaming. And I remember just saying to myself, like, how the fuck are we gonna do this? Like, how is any of this ever gonna happen? I mean the whole movie. This was like day one or two. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, if this pig's gonna scream like this the whole time, like, how's this ever gonna happen? Audio issues, stepping over lines. This pig was out of its mind.
It sounds like
Um,
the pig was unnerved. It sounds like the pig was under distress for some reason, and animals are very instinctive. So, I mean, that's when people have cats and dogs, they get very nervous when there's lightning, for instance, or people talk about the 4th of July. It's upsetting for animals. So, something in the atmosphere, it could have had nothing to do with the film set, but something in the neighborhood. If there was maybe some type of electronic gadget that was somewhere in the neighborhood that had a high
no,
pitch.
you know what it was, Mike? I think you hit it on the head. It was just like this pig again. We got sold a false bill of pig goods. This pig was not a trained pig that
It's a
had been on a
non-union
movie
pig.
set.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, I think it was just a matter of the pig saw all these people kind of crowded around in a circle and just kind of went nuts. But the pig did eventually calm down. We eventually shot the scene and everything was fine. But some things that I learned like right then and there, just when an animal is on set, I can't stress this enough. Like everybody's instincts are to go up to the animal, pet it, want to touch it, want to see it, want to take a picture with it, want to be cute with it, want to make all of our high pitched little voices and stuff that we
Mm,
do when we naturally see animals. And that's the exact opposite of what you should do. Really like the animal almost needs to like observe its surroundings, walk around, smell the area, suss it out, know that, because to me, again, I'm not an animal expert, but in my mind, all animals just are in constant fear of becoming a meal, right? Like if
yeah.
you're an
Yeah.
animal, especially like a pig, you're not really like a predator. We're not talking about a fucking lion here. I feel like most animals' first instinct is like, is something going to eat me?
Right.
So I think, you pull the pig out of its comfortable little trailer and there's all these people around. Yeah, it's going to go nuts. So we shot that scene and we got through it. And as the movie progressed, the pig did get better, I will say. Like it got a little more comfortable around our lead actor. Our lead got a little more comfortable with the pig. She was very small at the time. She was probably our lead was maybe I believe 7 or 8 years old. Her name was Lindsay. terrific actor, great sport. She was never afraid of the pig.
Didn't you work with her in the Santa Files as well?
I
Was that
did,
the same?
yes. She's in both.
She's a great kid actor. I mean, I remember telling you that in both of these movies, she's outstanding. So I don't know if she's continued with acting, but she's a great kid, and I can see her kind of warming up to the pig and vice versa.
Yeah, she was unbelievable with the pig because let's face it, any other little kid could have gotten nervous around it, and we'll get into it. You know, Lindsay was very tough. We'll get into some other pig incidents that we had. But yeah, Lindsay's actually in high school now. That's what's crazy
Wow.
about, you know, the time just flies. I want to say she's in ninth grade, maybe something like that, or maybe even in 10th grade. I don't know, man. The years just really trickled down the road pretty quickly. But yeah, she's very talented and is a veteran of two of my movies. So that was that incident, you know, and another kind of fun thing. This was like one of the fun things about working with a pig. A lot of this came down to our actual production design. You know, we needed to have certain elements that the pig could interact with. You know, for example, there was a scene, the script was a little underwritten. You know, the script was written almost as if like the screenwriter didn't maybe realize the capabilities, or I should say lack of capabilities that a pig might have. You know, like you don't realize when you're reading a script, there's little, you know, it might say in the script, Arlo hops up on the bed. Well, guess what? Pigs don't fucking hop. Okay.
Right.
So like, how am I going to get this pig up on the bed? There's a scene where the pig is supposed to be like, okay, pretending to go to bed, but then the pig sneaks around the house and gets into hilarious hijinks with the little girl's family members. Well, how are we going to show that? How are we going to show this pig like jump? A pig would probably break its legs if it jumped off of a bed. So what we did was, and shout out to John Del Ponte, who was the production designer on this movie. We built a set of makeshift stairs out of items that would be in a little kid's bedroom, which was kind of fun. You know, like a toy play set, a stack of books, a box of Kleenex for the top step. And this pig actually was able to, we made a worthy enough staircase out of random shit so that this pig could actually go up and down these pretend stairs. And what that did was, I think it actually made it cute. Kids like to see stuff like that. You know, we like to
Sure.
see, kids love to see something that's makeshift, something that's, you know, an item that might be meant for one purpose, repurposed for something else. I remember when I was little, I loved that shit. You know, you see like a tree house where they utilize a lot of old discarded elements to make something cool, like Swiss Family Robinson kind of shit. So it ended up actually being one of those situations where you're forced to be creative and you come up with some pretty good ideas. But, you know, it wasn't all fun and games on the set of Arlo the Burping Pig. Because, like I said, this was not an actual teacup pig. This was just a pig. They just gave us a baby pig. And if you're not familiar with baby pigs, and I sure wasn't before this, they grow incredibly fast.
Oh no.
So this is no bullshit. You know, this wasn't a long shoot. It was probably like a 3-week shoot. But from day one to like the final week of the shoot, the pig had doubled in size.
Oh my goodness.
Like at least doubled in size to the point where it was like visibly bigger, which became, you know, wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was a continuity issue, but like we knew it, you know, when we saw that thing, we were like, man, this thing is getting fucking huge to the point where I remember like Lindsay, our lead actress, you know, she's a small girl. When she first had the pig, it could fit in her arms and she was picking it up. By the end of the movie, I swear, like it was like having a big sow, like this big swine in her hands, and it was like clearly like bigger, and we were all just like, "Damn, that thing is getting massive." Which leads into, I don't know, maybe it's because the animal got a little bigger, maybe it got a little more aggressive. The pig had gotten pretty chill and pretty comfortable with Lindsay, but there was one moment when that pig was rambunctious, and it was the last week of the shoot. I want to say it might have even been like one of the last days. And I think the pig was just done being an actor.
Yeah.
The pig had its fun at this point and was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And poor Lindsay had the pig. And the pig, I remember watching this with my own two eyes, but the pig just like kept like kicking its feet, and its little hoof kicked Lindsay in the stomach, and it
Oh,
wasn't so much the impact of the kick, but like the hoof, like scratched
ouch.
her on the belly. And she was upset, she was hurt. But I will say this, Lindsay is a tough girl, and like within 5 or 10 minutes, she was good to go and back in the scene and willing. She didn't hold it against the pig. She wasn't like, I don't want to touch that thing. She was really cool with the pig, and although the pig got a little rambunctious in that one little moment, it didn't ruin our day. But you got to be careful, man. It's one of those things where, again, I'm not trying to. In all seriousness, this was a situation where, on a bigger production, or if we had, a choice, sometimes you don't have a choice, right? It's like,
Right.
well, day one, we needed a pig. Here's the pig. Try
Yeah.
getting another one today. We didn't really have a choice with this pig, but in hindsight, this probably wasn't a great situation. It wasn't a trained pig. It wasn't even a teacup pig. And by the end of the movie, it was looking like a goddamn pork chop. And you can imagine, I'm sure the PETA people won't like to hear this, but it was all
Sure.
meant in good, clean fun. There were a lot of bacon jokes on set. There were a lot of ham jokes, a lot of pork chop jokes. If somebody got upset with the pig, there was a lot of like, you're going to become bacon in a second if you don't pay attention. I never said that.
Of course not.
I heard those things said
Other people said that.
while we were working with this animal.
If I could just from an outsider perspective, buddy, I can see the frustration because you're flying in from Rhode Island to LA. You're very excited. You're directing a movie in Los Angeles. Was this a Richard Switzer production? Who's
It
also
was. This was the first movie I directed for Richard Switzer.
Yeah, and Richard is the producer of The Collective as well, and he's a great guy and accomplished so much at a young age. So you're obviously excited to be out there, and then folks, I think what the good thing about this show, one of them is just that these are real down and dirty life lessons about the film industry. You can watch, your director's commentary with Martin Scorsese, but he's got $50 million at his disposal. He can make a phone call and get anything he wants. But Tommy, you're in the heart of the dragon of trying to make these movies to turn a profit, make some art, have some fun. But these are the type of obstacles you're going to get. You kind of just take it. I would take it for granted myself. If someone told me, hey, we're making this teacup pig movie, I would say, of course, the teacup pig is well trained and he's actually a teacup pig. He's not just a little pig who's going to get twice as big in 3 weeks. So I can see these predicaments that come up. And like you said, once you've committed, like once the first day of filming begins and you got this pig, who's going to be able to pick up the phone and get another pig once you started filming? He's already captured on film. So I can see the frustrations with this thing.
That pig has been established at that point.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right, Mike. It's a good point you make. There's a lot of good points you make. I mean, number one, this movie was filmed probably like 7 years ago now,
Yeah.
maybe even longer than that. So it's cool to see how far a guy like Richard Switzer's come in all that time. That this was a really small movie. I wasn't a producer, so I don't know the budget, but I could guess it had to be under $250,000 budget. And then you go look at years later, we just made a movie with Don Johnson, Tyrese Gibson, Ruby Rose, multi-million-dollar budget. So it's really cool to see that progression and to know that 7 or 8 years ago, Richard and I were pulling our hair out of our head, hoping that this pig will just cooperate. And now we get to make much bigger action movies and things like that. So like you said, Mike, it's all part of the journey. And I say this too, it's like if you can work with animals and you have that level of patience, when you can actually communicate with your actors, it's even easier. So there's one other funny story from Arlo that I wanted to talk about. Part of having this little teacup pig was we needed to have toys that the pig could interact with, so that the little girl had a couple scenes where she's like playing with her new pet pig. So here's John Del Ponte and I in a Los Angeles Walmart late at night looking for some props. And this is to paint the scene. John's a pretty tough looking guy. He's a strapping lad with tattoos and a big beard. And at the time I was working out a lot, so I was much bigger and kind of, muscle head guy. So here's me and John, these two like, you know, grown ass men. I wouldn't say tough guys, but you know, not the kind of guys you'd expect to be in the little girl toy aisle of a Walmart.
Sure.
And we're like riding, not riding, but we're like, we have this big pink Jeep. It was like a off-brand Barbie Jeep, like a knockoff,
Yes.
but it was probably designed for a Barbie type doll. So we got this big Jeep and we're like pushing it and we're like, all right, it runs pretty smooth. I don't know. You think we could fit a pig in it though? You think the pig will fit? And we're like, I don't know. I mean, like the driver's seat looks big. The door's open. I think it's big enough to put this pig in there. And I'll never forget, like a mom and her kid like walked by, just me and John, like grown men. And overhearing that conversation, she gave us the weirdest look. Like here we are, like a couple guys that don't really look like we belong in this aisle, being like, "Do you think we can get a pig in this vehicle? Think this is big enough to fit a pig in it?" Like she was probably like, "What the fuck are these two guys going to do after
Well,
this?"
it's Los Angeles. She might have thought you guys were with some type of special social club that met after midnight in Hollywood or something
Pig
to that
fetish
effect.
club.
Yeah, big
Um,
fetish.
but you know what? That's a good point, Mike. In Hollywood, it's funny. We think about these things, you know, in Rhode Island, that would be weird. But in Los Angeles, like movie culture is such a part of everything. She
Right.
probably was just like, oh, they must be making a movie about a
Well,
pig.
she might have been looking for the invite to the party. Who knows, buddy?
Oh boy. Ariana Pacheco, what's up, Ariana? How you doing? Hey all, can't wait to hear all about the animals. Fun stuff reliving our furry creature times today.
Hey, hey, Tommy. While we're checking the comments, we should tell people that we invite our viewers to contribute ideas for our next couple of episodes. If you have any thoughts on topics you'd like to see covered on An Action, now is the time to put them in the comments section immediately.
Yeah, drop it down, guys. We're talking, Mike and I, what we usually do is every few weeks we'll program out the next few weeks, you know, based on sometimes there's actors' birthdays and we want to do a feature on an actor. Sometimes it'll be a timely kind of topic depending upon what season we're in. So Mike and I are about to program out the next few weeks. So if you have any ideas, we wanted to go right to the horse's mouth in the phrasing of our animal day. And yeah, give us some ideas. Drop them down in the comments. If there's anything you want to kind of hear us focus on, whether it's more about making movies, whether it's more about a specific topic. Andre says, every big cardboard box became the next set for my son's G.I. Joes. That's awesome. And it's so funny you mentioned that, man. I was just talking to a couple of my sister was hanging out with a couple of kids that are basically like her nephews. And they didn't want to throw out the box for these action figures that she gave them. And she was like, "What are you doing with the boxes?" And she was like, "It's their base. We're not throwing them out. That's their base." So it's just like I just love that, like, no matter what technology comes to us, there's something about little kids playing with action figures and like using things like a cardboard box or whatever as like a fort. I love that level of creativity in playtime, and I hope it never goes away. Andre says, "How about the goat and Vault?" You know, we've been saving our Vault episode for a while now. That's definitely something that I want to do. I'm almost like I'm eager to do that one, but at the same time, we've always wanted to make sure that like we had our game down. But maybe it's time. Maybe it's time we break out Vault. But yeah, please, we want your contributions. So if you guys have any ideas, drop them down. Vault will definitely be in the mix down the road. All right, guys. So patience is the key with animals, right? I mean, again, you're dealing with something that can't be spoken to. I mean, yeah, you can talk to an animal. Yeah, they can understand certain commands, but it's not like you're going to take them aside and talk about the character. It's not like you're going to tell them what their intentions in the scene are. You're kind of at the mercy of the trainer and the animal, and you're going to hope that they're in a great mood. I learned the most about working with animals on a little movie called Agent Toby Barks, which, if you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend it for anyone who's got kids around. You know, this is a great kids movie. I would say like the perfect demographic, probably kids like ages 7 to 10, you know, like right in that neighborhood. It's really all about a spy dog. In fact, that's the original name of the movie. It was called Spy Dog. So this is a movie about a dog that happens to be in a secret spy organization. And this dog comes in contact with these two regular old kids And these two kids befriend the dog, and they end up on a mission. And it's a really fun movie. Dean Cain, former television Superman, starred in this one. And also great part played by Fred Sullivan, who plays basically the main villain in the movie. And it was just a great production altogether. And I had a lot of fun on this movie. This was a movie where when I read the script, well, it's kind of funny. You forget so much shit that you do in this business sometime. I actually wrote this script as Dan Hunter. And when I wrote the script, I was kind of, I'd already made the pig movie, so I had an idea of what animals could do. I knew
Right.
what a pig could do, what a pig was capable of. I knew dogs. I had heard that dogs were capable of doing a whole lot more. Got a little excited, but I tried to keep, when I wrote the script, I tried to keep everything within the realm of reality. So some of the fun things about working with this on this movie is I had a wonderful trainer by the name of Chrissy Joy, who Chrissy Joy's dog, Beasley, was just an all-star. And I can't say enough things about this dog. This dog, Beasley, was smarter than most of the people that I know. Very obedient, a pleasure to work with. On the movie Arlo, I had this pig that was screaming every 2 minutes if it, wasn't comfortable.
Right.
Beasley, the dog, I don't think made a peep the whole movie, completely calm, completely chill. And a lot of that had to do with Chrissy Joy. And I remember Chrissy reading the script at first, when we first had our first call, because Chrissy's from down south somewhere. I want to say she's from Maryland or, somewhere in the middle of the South, or I should say
The
the north,
Mid-Atlantic.
the Mid-Atlantic. Yeah, I think she's in that Mid-Atlantic area somewhere. And I remember, kind of music to my ears, I had written this script where I'm assuming that a dog is capable of doing most of the things in the script. Because again, unlike Arlo, where, yeah, the pig was the central character, but it didn't have to do a whole lot.
Right.
In this movie, Agent Toby Barks, the dog was very much a character. The dog spoke. Later in post-production, we would make the dog's mouth move with visual
John
effects.
Lovitz was John Lovitz the voiceover
The
artist.
the legendary comedian John Lovitz did the
Yes.
voice of this dog, Beasley, aka Toby, in the movie. So this one was much bigger, and I remember it was like music to my ears when I heard Chrissy Joy, the dog trainer, on the phone be like, I read the script and we're comfortable with everything. Beasley will be able to do all this and more. And I was just like so excited. Beasley showed up, and Chrissy was just so on point. She had all the right, knew all the right little tricks. I mean, that's what it is, really. It comes down to a lot of the movements, the A to B. It comes down to a little bit of treat action. These dogs are given treats. They're kind of conditioned with a little bit of food to basically, okay, if you do this for me, you're going to get a little something that you like. And this dog was just so smart that it knew, like, oh, okay, wait, I get a treat, and all you want me to do is walk from here to here, and I get a treat. Easy. So the dog was just really kind of conditioned. And again, it wasn't just with treats. I mean, obviously, like the dog would be 300 pounds by the end of the shoot if all we did was feed it while it needed things. So the treats help, but it's really Chrissy Joy's ability to just kind of, she would do all these like interesting hand signals and things that the dog would kind of pay attention to. And I remember, like, I'll never look at another movie with animals the same again, because I remember so many times filming, the camera's right here, and Chrissy's literally like right next to the camera, signaling in some way that the dog will either look a certain way or do what we want it to do. And it was amazing. So now every time I watch a movie with an animal, I'm like, the animal's looking this way. And I bet you if you were to push the frame just a little bit over here, you'd see the trainer right next to the camera. So it's fun to see how the magic trick works. And I got to see a lot of that on Toby Barks. I mean, this dog did everything. We literally built like a bat cave for the dog, and it was interactive. The dog actually had like a chair that he could sit on. The dog had little controls that it could hit with its paw. Just we got a lot out of this thing. By this thing, I mean Beasley the dog. but really great working with Beasley, and I was just so impressed with everything that dog was capable of doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tommy, and not to, it's not a direct comparison because, like you said, the pigs are much less likely to be well trained than a dog just by their natural birth. But I think what I'm hearing is the big difference in these stories is the trainer. You know, like if a trainer is a dedicated animal trainer or animal wrangler, I've heard that term too. But if this is their profession, they take it seriously. They train this animal since it's a pup, then Beasley is going to be a well trained, actor basically. But if then you have a situation where, you know, look, it's entertainment, so everybody kind of shines things a little bit different than they actually are sometimes. But if you have a situation where you have less than that, you're gonna deal with the repercussions. So I mean, I give a lot of credit to your friend Chrissy Joy there because it sounds like she takes this thing seriously, and because you're working with someone of that quality, the production is going to run a lot smoother.
Yeah, Chrissy's an all-star, and it's what I love to see is the movie business is really unpredictable, right? There's a lot of people come and go, meaning people will work in this industry for a year or two, and frankly, it can eat you up, chew you up, and spit you out, and it's not too long before you'll be poking around Facebook and you'll be like, oh, that person has another job and they don't work in the movies anymore. I see. It didn't work out, I guess. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. I get so excited and I love seeing Chrissy Joy like crushing it to this day. Years later, she's still going strong, and it's really fun to kind of follow her career and even see Beasley. It's been fun to see Beasley in other big national dog commercials, and I'm like, that's Beasley. That's my guy right there. So we loved working with Chrissy Joy, and it's great to see her career just continues to take off. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Christine Pitcairn is her name. Chrissy and Christine worked together, and Christine was instrumental on probably one of my favorite shots that I've ever directed in my life, and I mean that. It was a Dan Hunter shot. Dan can take the credit for this one, and I don't mind because we all know that, let's face it, Dan doesn't have all the things that I have. Okay, so
Sure,
I'm not going to take that away from Dan. So this
like
was
a birth
Dan's shot.
certificate. Yeah, yeah.
This is Dan's shot, but basically it was the end of the movie. It was our big third act set piece, and there was a company called Lane Technologies where Fred Sullivan's character, the main villain of this whole story, basically has captured all of these animals, and he's running various tests on these animals. And I remember talking to Christine and talking to Chrissy, and was just like, look, this is my one day where I'm like calling out all the favors. I've got a wish list. I want to fill this room up with animals, and I want it to be candy for the eye, like of just overwhelming amount of animals. Like, what do we have? Like, and we had cages and we had various, kennels and areas that we could showcase these animals. So Christine and Chrissy put their heads together. They got me a horse. They got me chickens. They got me rabbits. They got me exotic birds. They got me a mouse. They got me cats. They got me dogs. It was a fucking zoo inside this set. And I remember, like, to this day, thankfully, this was a really cool thing. We were filming in an old nightclub that was about to be demolished.
Yeah.
So, part of the deal was, again, I wish I knew the word for this. Any horse people out there know, like, it looks like little wood chips that you put down for animals, like that you'd put in like a stall. But basically, we put these little tiny wood
Wood,
chips all over the place. Do you know what I'm
they
talking
call.
about?
I want to use the term pellets, but I mean it could be wood pellets or just maybe wood chips or
They're more
something
like,
like that.
you know what they look like, Mike? Like if you see like an old-fashioned sander, like the little strips of like that wood would peel off of like an old sander.
Right.
Anyway, it's just this is what you put down for animals when they're walking around, so that if the animal were to go or anything, it seeps into that. So we turned this location into a barn.
Okay.
And we had, like I said, the horse would, and it was this engineered shot where we were starting with the camera up high. The camera would come down on a jib, and then an operator would take the camera off the jib and then track through the entire room showcasing all these animals. So the horse comes by, and then we follow the horse and lead over to a parrot, and we see the parrot, and we go by and we see some chickens in a cage, and we see some rabbits, we see some dogs. We've got scientists doing crosses and background actors working and walking with all these animals. So for a small kids movie, it was a very elaborate shot. And I remember we shot it like probably 5 or 6 takes, and we finally got it. And I was just so fucking excited about this one shot. Because again, like, to me, anyone who knows me in real life, like, I've always loved to, like, I love action figures. I love playing with toys, and like I love setting up all these elaborate little setups and watching them. It's cool when you can have like an elaborate setup that you concocted in your mind, but it's life size, and there's animals involved, and there's people, and it's a dance. There's some ballet moves that go into this. There was a stairway, people had a cross, and so I'm really excited for this shot. And if this were a clip show, we'd play you a clip for it right now. We'll get those capabilities someday.
Wood
But
chip bedding, pellets.
Mike, that
What?
sounds like it is. Yeah, their wood chip bedding sounds spot on.
Yeah.
So this was just a wonderful situation where I had a location that they didn't mind if I wrecked it, and we were able to literally just turn it into a zoo. So that was my kind of, out of all of my directing animal stories, that was my favorite one, because I mean, in theory, you could say like there were probably a dozen animals in this one shot, in some tiny little, we had everything, in terms of like scope of size, we had everything from tiny little mice to a fucking horse walking around the inside of this building. So it was pretty incredible. A couple of other fun stories. On that same day, we had a cat on set. Now, everybody knows I fucking love cats. I'm a big cat guy.
Yes.
And this cat was adorable. It was one of those kind of long-haired orange cats. And orange cats are usually known to be pretty docile as a rule. And I remember Fred, playing Agent Lane, had to just kind of carry this cat. And the cat is on Fred's, chest, and he's holding it. And Fred's a cat guy too. So it's certainly not Fred's fault. But again, sometimes animals, this is the hard thing about working with animals. They're just so unpredictable. They don't necessarily want to be there. They have no clue what's going on. All of a sudden, you're just in the arms of a stranger, and there's 30 people looking at you. This cat went fucking ballistic and just started clawing at Fred. And Fred, kind of just instinctively lets go of the cat. The cat hits the ground and bolts.
Wow.
Runs. And now we're in this big building that used to be a nightclub, bunch of different rooms. It was one of those multi-clubs. So
Mardi Gras. Club Mardi Gras.
Was the name of it.
Yeah.
There's multiple little like rooms and areas where it could have gone to. Maybe it went outside. So now, there's a break in the action where I got to kind of call cut, and okay, everybody, over the walkies, it's like, all right, all hands on deck. We're looking for an orange, mangy little cat. Find this cat. And the PAs probably might have thought, like, are they serious? Like, no, we're not joking. There's a cat missing. We need to find it. So we tracked this little guy down, and all was well. But it was pretty funny because, it was also funny just because Fred is such a cat guy. He's had cats his whole life, loves cats. Of course, the cat would go nuts on him. So that was kind of fun. And again, there was something about the Sullivan brothers. Fred's brother, John Sullivan, who is also, just one of these guys who loves movies, loves being around entertainment. He had a cameo in the film, and it was really cool to have him there that day. Well, he's got this really great, like, mad scientist look. We put him in a white lab coat. He's got a great facial hair. He's got the kind of white hair. He just looks like a scientist. And if you look up scientist in a dictionary, you'd be like, oh, this is the guy. Especially for a zany kids movie scientist. So Fred's brother is handling a mouse, and Johnny's got the mouse. And this mouse, just like with its little fangy teeth, just looked at John's thumb and just went boom, and just like punctured John's thumb with his teeth. And John's just like, oh, he bit me. And we're like, what? We thought he was kidding. He's like, no, look at that. Drew blood and everything. So between the cat scratching Fred, the mouse attacking his brother Johnny, there was something about the Sullivan boys that day. The animals were kind of ganging up on them, but we got through it. We got the shot, and it was all good. And that was one of my, I'm not kidding. That was one of my favorite shots of all time. Like just that big, massive oneer. And it was all a oneer, guys. No cutaways. Just it was a lot of fun. Again, I like to do ambitious things because when you pull it off, it's always fun. But the idea of even pulling off a oneer where you're not going to cut away with animals that are so fucking unruly and unpredictable, who knows what they're going to do? It was a challenge. And again, credit to Chrissy Joy, credit to Christine, because the animals did their job. If anything, it was the camera operators that were messing things up. If anything, it was the crew that bumped a couple things up. So love that shot. Love that movie. This is kind of another quick, funny story from Agent Toby Barks. I worked with my good friend Tom Glenn, great actor. Tom Glenn plays sort of like the heavy in the movie. He plays like the tough guy that is Fred Sullivan's assistant. And in this movie, Tom gets attacked by Beasley, the dog. And Beasley's just such a sweetheart that, like, he's not an aggressive dog. So to train a dog to attack, you're actually just like training it to be really affectionate. So it was really just like we had to film it in certain angles because really it was just Beasley like hugging on Tom and licking his face and wanting pets. But we had to film it in such a way where Tom is like, oh my God. But really, it's just like the dog is just kind of being friendly. The dog's not really attacking anyone.
Right.
So that was kind of funny. And again, this isn't a knock to Beasley. I love Beasley, and if you put him on a scale of not even animals, just actors that I've worked with, he's somewhere in the middle in terms of how easy he was to deal with. Beasley didn't have a lot of a bark. He really didn't. Like part of Beasley's training was to be quiet. So the couple times we did need him to bark, I remember Chrissy being like, go ahead, Beasley, like doing the cue to bark. And he would just be like he'd be like too obedient to want to make noise kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
that's tough.
It was kind of funny. It's like, I guess you can only train them in so many different ways. It's like, well, it's hard to be like, be obedient, don't bark, but now we need you to bark. So
yeah,
in
that's
post,
a bit much. Yeah.
You'll hear a lot of the barking in that movie was actually in post because Beasley is a very mild mannered cat, or I should say dog.
Dog, yeah. Don't misappropriate him as a cat. He's a dog.
Well, I know. They wouldn't like that. I just meant like, cat in the 1950s beatnik phrasing of the word.
Yeah.
But but basically, it's kind of funny because animals may look a certain way, but they may act another way. On that movie, we had this very old dog, Otis, who's probably no longer with us. So rest in peace, Otis. I mean, he was old at the time. And Otis was this massive dog. I mean, I've never seen a dog this big. Like you could almost ride this dog. Like it was that big. And again, big, huge dog, looks like it would rip you limb from limb. But when we needed it to get like mean and aggressive, it was just kind of like just didn't want to do anything. So a lot of that was done in post and things like that. So, I guess what we can learn from this is when you're working with animals, be creative and understand that they're not going to do everything you want them to do, but there are some ways around it in the editing room, depending upon what angles you shoot, depending upon what sound effects you add. Like I said, when Tom was getting mauled by Beasley, he was really just getting licked up and pet. They were having a grand old time. But if you add the right sound effects of scratching and roar and tearing of clothing and ripping, suddenly a friendly little hug session can look like an attack if you film it the right way. So just always try to be creative. Let's go and take some questions here and see what's going on.
I believe your friend.
I worked one summer at Roger Williams Zoo, and I did a show where the star was a chicken, and the chicken, and
She
I
was
was
the
the chicken's co-star. So you've got chicken experience. Excellent. Yeah, I gotta say the chicken were pretty docile. I didn't have a problem with the chicken. My chicken in my movie, I don't know about your play, but he just kind of had to sit in a cage and cluck. There was no advanced chicken skills in this one. It was so fun to learn how they train the animals and get them to do cool tricks. It really is, like a lot of it. Like I said, it's more than just treats, but treats are a big part of it. There's a lot of positive reinforcement with various types of food. And yes, to add on, they really are more intelligent than you think. Um, so moving on, that was Agent Toby Barks. It was a real education on animals of all kind. Like I said, there was even an exotic bird in this one scene. Just really beautiful animals. And what I love about animals, to kind of close my point on Agent Toby Barks, people are always a little bit different around animals. There's a better mood on set. We always said, like, when the animals are around, everyone just seems to be a little more chill. You're a little less likely to be like, "What the fuck, people?" if there's like a cute dog like right over here. Like it just kind of it kept everyone kind of in a chill space. And here's something that I loved about the animals. And this is, something, again, if you're going to work with furry friends, you got to make this a mandate on your set. But I would always come out, before we bring the animal out, Chrissy would always come to me and be like, "All right, do you need Beasley?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, we're going to need him in like 10, 15 minutes." And I always made it a point, and my first AD always made it a point to be like, "Cast, crew, guys, animal's about to come onto set. So before it gets here, I want everyone to quiet down. And when
That's
that
good.
animal walks onto set, I want it to be like a church." Because if you take the animal out and everyone's all hooting and hollering, and again, I'm not saying they're like, acting crazy like a bunch of teenagers in the lunchroom. I just mean, like, while you're working, if you're using your outdoor voices, like, "Hey, can you grab that jib? And hey, can you grab this? And where's the stinger?" Whoa, whoa, whoa. None of that shit. When we bring the animal out, we talk like this, and we kind of communicate to each other like that. Because all it takes is, like, that animal gets on set, hears a bunch of noise, gets rambunctious, gets rattled. You could lose hours of your day trying to get this animal to do what you want. And here's another thing, guys: learn when to cut bait. If you're ever going to work with an animal, try it. Try what you're going to do. Often there's going to be a trick that you want to pull off. Try your best. But if after, 6, 7 takes, it ain't happening, don't continue to try to get the shot and abuse the animal and overwork it. Just, if it ain't going to work, be willing to cut bait and find the maybe not as cool alternative way of shooting what you want to shoot. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't get hung up on, "Oh man, we really want the dog to do a backflip off of this table." Well, like, maybe it's just not going to do a backflip today, and be ready to be prepared for that.
Yeah, that reminds me of Sidney Pollack had a scene in the movie Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise, and he said that, the director, Stanley Kubrick, they did like 3 or 4 takes, and Kubrick was so enthusiastic. "You got it, you got it, Sidney Pollack," and Pollack was like, "Great, we're done. I can go home." And then they did 150 more takes of that same scene because Kubrick was a perfectionist and almost like a beyond perfectionist. And imagine him trying to work with Arlo the burping pig. Yeah, it's some good stories, Tommy. And I think what I'm kind of learning from these experiences you've had is that it really, once again, the trainer is such an essential part of the production. I wish that there was, talking about this podcast, I wish that there was like an Oscar or an Emmy for best animal trainer, because I mean, you think about it, some of these animals, their trainers really deserve more credit and some type of. I hope that they get some type of award from some union or something, because they deserve it. And you think about animals like Lassie and when I was a kid, you had things like BJ and the bear and Boomer the dog and Benji the dog, and some of these animal TV shows and movies bring so much joy to people, especially when they are kids, and especially, for families, like Arlo the burping pig and Agent Toby Barks. I'm sure a lot of families have sat around and enjoyed these movies because they're good for the kids, but also the parents can sit through them as well. And something else for kids like Barney or whatever, the Wiggles might get annoying for parents. But if there's an actual story with the animal star, I think that's more digestible, so to speak, bad term, for the parents as well to enjoy the entertainment.
Yeah, I think that the nice thing about animals are we can all relate to them. Just about everyone had a pet of some kind growing up as a kid, or if you didn't have a pet, your neighbor had a pet or your cousin had a pet. There was almost always an animal of some kind in our lives growing up, and I think that that's something that's kind of always hardwired into our hearts. And even as an adult, when you see an animal, there's something about it that that innocence can kind of take you back to a more innocent time in your life. And yeah, man, I mean, working with animals has given me a whole new appreciation for when I do see one of these bigger movies, and I just say to myself, like, oh my God, how did they pull this off? They must have had. And here's the thing, on a bigger movie, instead of having just one Beasley play, like instead of having Agent Toby Barks, the dog, well, it's like, yeah, we just had Beasley. They would, on a big multi-million-dollar Disney movie, they would have 5 dogs like Beasley that could kind of just keep getting switched out. Like, oh, this one's in a bad mood, bring this one in. Oh, this one does the backflip. This one's good for walking point A to B. They'd have different dogs that do different tricks and different skill sets. So for me, it was fun to learn on this kind of smaller scale. And yeah, man, working with animals is a really special thing. We had a fun question here from Scott. What's up, Scott? Good to see you here, brother.
That's a good
Do
question.
animals have their own catering on set? That's a good question. Chrissy Joy was very good about making sure these animals were very well fed. In fact, they probably ate better than a lot of the crew members did. They had some of these dogs. It's amazing what people do. They'll have like cooking steak, cooking chicken for these dogs. They eat pretty damn well. And there were all kinds of treats and little snacks that she would give the dogs throughout the day to keep them happy and keep their energy levels up. Hey, nothing wrong with occasionally going by Dunkin', getting a pup cup. I don't know if everyone knows what a pup cup is, but it's really just a cup full of whipped cream for these little guys, and they
I
really
didn't know
seem to,
about that.
they seem to like that. Yeah, if you go to Dunkin' and you have a dog and you say, "Could I have a pup cup?" They'll just give you a little cup full of whipped cream, and that dog will get in there and just have a grand old time with it. So yeah, it's fun working with these animals. I've probably missed a couple of really great stories from that movie because there were so many of them. But the key is patience and be quiet on set. Everyone needs to work really quietly because you just don't know what's going to set off an animal. It could be anything. But I did get to work with this. We'll kind of wrap up our animal discussion. The last time that I worked with an animal, aside from my own personal cats, which are non-professionals, but I still have, shout out to Larry and Donnie. Larry's made a couple cameos. Donnie's made a couple of cameos. Those are just my go-to cats. When I can't afford a trainer, I can't afford a fancy cat, I'll bring Larry in. I'll bring Donnie in, and they'll do their thing. Are they good? Not really. Larry's a better actor than Donnie.
Yeah.
Donnie is not a great actor. He gets very nervous. But Larry, my cat Larry, is a pretty good actor. Not a pro, but if you need a quick fill-in, he's not bad. But on the movie Vault, I worked with a mouse, and that was kind of fun. Seeing Chaz Palminteri work with a mouse. He was playing a mob boss, and this mob boss's one and only pet little friend was this mouse that he kind of befriended. And in the scene, Chaz is kind of handling this mouse, and the mouse is kind of running up and down its arm, and he's playing with his hand. And our main character, Chaz, is given this really badass monologue about his mouse and how this mouse is his best friend. He taught him how to do tricks, starts to feed him, and then he's trying to intimidate this guy, and he's saying, "You see this mouse? He's my best friend. He talks to me every day. I feed him." And he says, "You're a lot like this mouse if you don't do what I need to do." And he's like, "What?" And he squishes the mouse to kind of show, like, I just killed my only friend, and I don't give a fuck. That's how crazy I am. He's like, so if I just killed my best friend, little mouse, I won't think twice of killing you in 2 seconds. Get the message kind of thing?
Right.
Really fucked up, and we feel bad for the mouse. But everyone needs to know that no mice were harmed in the filming of Vault. We, of course, cut away, and we used a fake mouse when it came time to actually kill that little bugger.
Right.
But I remember it was kind of funny, man. Like, again, this was a union movie. There was no messing around. We had to go through an actual legit animal wrangler, union animal wrangler, to come in with the mouse. And I want to say it had to be a male mouse because female mouses they get scared and they like let out some kind of pheromone that is like really smelly.
Wow.
So it was like one of those things where I remember the animal trainer telling me that, like, oh yeah, we only work with males because the females smell. I was like, yeah, interesting. So it was kind of funny, we did the scene, and Don Johnson was also in the scene, but Chaz was actually handling the mouse, and it just shows you what a pro Chaz is. Chaz was like, let me see him. I want to hold him. Let me hold him a little bit. Let me yeah, I want to get to know him a little bit. Make him comfortable. Like he like was totally about making this mouse feel comfortable because he wanted it to look authentic. Like, yeah, this is my pet. This is my best friend. This mouse. So that was really fun to work with Chaz on that. And of course, it's to this day one of my favorite scenes that I've ever shot. And people react, man, when that mouse gets squished. People are like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
So Chaz knocked it out of the park. The mouse knocked it out of the park. And like you said, Mike, these animal trainers knocked it out of the park. We couldn't do it without them. So we appreciate all the effort that they put in. And yeah, animals are fun. Scott says, your cats are superstars, some of your most popular YouTube shorts. Yeah, Larry and Donnie, I've been trying to train them, Scott, because they disappointed me on a couple of feature films. And I said, look, you guys need a little practice. We're going to start working you into these YouTube shorts. Maybe you get a little camera time, a little experience. Then maybe we can put you in a feature.
Yeah, Tommy, I was going to say that, another thing that I'm kind of learning from all this is just that the empathy, as people, we don't think about animals a whole lot unless, it's either as a pet or, to be blunt, as a meal. But I think people need to say that, if you're going to work on a film with animals involved, put yourself in the role of the animal and the fear. I mean, just imagine, like you said, Tommy, I mean, this pig or a dog comes to set and everybody is bigger than them. It's a different species. They're not speaking pig speak or dog speak or cat speak or mouse speak. Everything is very intimidating, and animals have an instinctive, survival method. And these are probably very, at some level, very scary situations. So, like you said, having yourself or the first AD or a production assistant come out every single time that the animal's coming on set and tell everyone, look, now we really got to be quiet as much as possible because our star here, our co-star, the animal, needs to come on set and feel as much security and safety as possible. I think that's a pretty valuable lesson because a lot of times people just think about themselves, well, this mouse or this cat or this pig is slowing down production, but put yourself in that animal's hoofs. It wouldn't be that easy for you either.
Put yourself in my hoofs, God damn it.
Yeah.
No, you're right, Mike. We have to think about the animals because we need them to perform, and you can't get frustrated. And I will say this: I'm pretty proud of myself. I never got frustrated with these animals. I never yelled. I never put my hands on my head and was like, "What the fuck?" Because they're animals, man. And it's funny because I remember Chrissy Joy came up to me after and was like, and this was such a great compliment. She was like, Tom, you're so great with these animals. I was, what do you mean? And she's like, a lot of directors, they get really frustrated and they yell and they huff and they puff. And I'm like, why are you going to do that around an animal? It's an animal. like if they're not obeying you, it's not because they're like, fuck this guy. It's because they're an animal and they don't even belong there, really. So you got to be patient. Well, look at this. We got Stephen E. joining us. I'm late, brother. It's all good. You can go back and watch us from the beginning. We had a lot of fun talking about animals today. Tommy looks like the new kids on the block. All of them? I look like all 5 of them combined into one. Donnie, Joey, Danny. Who was? I'm missing some new kids.
Bart,
Jordan,
Tito,
and John.
There wasn't a Tito in New Kids on the Block?
Hold on. Joey, Johnny, Donnie, Jordan, and Danny. That's all 5.
No Tito?
I'm pretty impressed that I busted out all 5 new kids, buddy.
Yeah, that's good.
Plus, it helps that to have cats. Yes, it does, brother. I love my cats, and I speak a little cat, but I don't speak pig. Scott says, "Have there ever
This is
been
a
any
great
issues
question.
with unknown allergies on set when working with animals?" That is a great question. You know, I don't think it must have been, again, sometimes like that's something that might have been on a questionnaire that one of the producers sent out to the actors. It probably was. That's probably something where like an email goes out before the production and says, "Hey, do you have any allergies? Because you're going to be in a scene with a cat." Personally, those are one of those things that kind of goes over my head as a director, but I would imagine that was a thing. But it's a good point, man. If the little kid that you cast in the movie is suddenly allergic to dogs and they're in every scene with a dog, that would probably be a recast situation. You'd probably have to work around that. It's funny,
Oh,
allergies are a weird thing. When I was a little kid, I used to be very allergic to cats, and I still had them. But they would make my eyes puffy, and I would get like a runny nose. And I don't know what happened, but like it seems like over time, like I developed an immunity to it, and I'm no longer like it doesn't affect me. But yeah, allergies are a thing, man. I know some people that they can't even come in my house. Like if they enter my house, they're immediately like puffed up, out of control. So that's a great question, Scott, and fortunately something that we didn't have to deal with. Tito is the Jackson 5. Yeah, Mike, come on, man. How could you confuse Tito?
I was going to say, Tommy, what if, just as a what if, but what if Arlo the burping pig was allergic to one of the people on set's perfume or cologne? I mean, do animals? I would assume that animals have allergies or they're
Mike,
sensitive to
that I don't know.
smells.
That I don't know.
And
I
how
couldn't
would you know? Because they
I
couldn't tell you. So
Yeah, I couldn't tell you one way or another, but general rule of thumb is just and again, I said this earlier in the show, but just to recap as we kind of wind things down here. Um, your first instinct, if you ever find yourself on a set with animals, you're gonna want to go up to the animal and you want to maybe take a selfie or to ask for a pic, and that's all good. Just time and a place kind of a thing, like if you're ever going to try to get a little FaceTime with the star animal of a production, just ask the trainer first. Make sure that it happens at the end of the day and not when like things are going to be held up. And most trainers are very friendly and cool about that stuff, and they'll say, "Yeah, of course," and they'll even show you like, "Here's how you hold it," or "They like when you do this." So again, it's one of those. Just ask before you take it upon yourself to take pictures of the animals and things like that. Um, but yeah, guys, this was a really fun episode. Next week, I'm excited to dive into a brand new topic. We don't know what it is just yet, but as soon as we find out, we'll let you know. And like I said, uh, even if sometime it doesn't have to be now, if you think of a cool topic that you want us to chat about, drop it down in these comments. Even if it's tomorrow night at 11 p.m., you get an idea, drop it down in the comments and I'll take a look. Because we really have just scraped the surface. There's a lot of fun projects to talk about. There's a lot of fun aspects to talk about. Mike had a good idea earlier. We were talking about fights in movies. We've done stunts before. I feel like we could do a whole episode just a deep dive on fighting in movies. So maybe that's something that we'll do coming up soon off the heels of our collective episode. So thanks again, everyone, for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to find me on Instagram, I'm Tom DiNucci. Just punch that in. I'll come on up. And again, thank you so much for everybody who posts up about this show. Can't thank you enough. Andres, always appreciate the story drop down. I look forward to your new creative spin on what we're going to do every week. Ariana, thank you so much for always shouting out the show. Stephen E., the graphics that you put together. Scott, it's awesome to see you with us every week. Now we won you over with our collective, and we still got you, and we appreciate that. So thanks, guys. Anna coming in with the late. What's up? Hey, Anna, good to see you.
oh, there she is.
We hope you go back and enjoy the rest of our animal episode. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. All right, guys, we will see you next week on episode 58. Thanks for hanging in and have an awesome week. And on behalf of myself and Mike, we hope all of your animals at home also enjoyed this episode. Play this one for the cat. Play this one for the dog. We think they might like it.